roughly 2,000 years. Coming down near close to 3,000 years. Third, the kinds of consoling and compassion experiences change because the experience of what it's like to live in a city is a little bit different. Urbanization causes novel stresses on the person. Theologies try to enhance devotion with higher individual value and unique irreplaceability. This is another feature seen across many of the higher civilization theologies. I mean, think about it. You're in a city. You don't necessarily have all of your family or any family with you there. You're surrounded by lots of strangers, and you may have a job, but you're a lot more replaceable. You're part of the machine now. Being part of an urban machine is different from being back on the farm and part of the family enterprise, right? So you watch theologies try to dramatically enhance the significance of the individual in order to try to compensate what you're being told by the urban society that you're not so important, you're just one in a million. So with urban theologies trying to do all these different things, this philosopher detects the tension. And it's almost like a mathematical equation. The first formula says, well, look, if you've got theologies trying to heighten the duties, the same duties upon everybody, heighten the commonality, that feeling of fellowship, sisterhood, brotherhood of any member of the same religion, and you add empire, which again adds this an additional layer of an opportunity for a theology to say, you have a special devotion to everyone in this empire, no matter where you go. That lends support to the idea of generic humanity. And theologies, indeed, for a long time have been on a very long and bumpy road towards this idea that there is a sort of generic or common humanity that the religion needs to deal with, either by trying to become a universal religion, right? Or by at least saying, we respect the common humanity of everybody, and other religions do it in a different way, not as good as us, of course, but this is, that's one thing we have in common, this common humanity, and God is really concerned about everybody. On the other hand, when you have theologies trying to increase individual value, individual uniqueness, and under stress from reason and science, throwing the paranormal entirely out of nature into this completely supernatural, which has nothing in common with nature, you instead get the idea of the immortal soul. And this idea has been independently invented and cross-fertilized now for a while amongst various theologies. There's a tension between simultaneously telling you you are one of a generic humanity that's more important than you, and that you are a special, particular, irreplaceable individual with an infinite destiny and an immortal, unnatural soul. You see the tension, right? It's a kind of interesting creative tension. And in fact, you can chart the dominant ideologies. This is just a selection, very artificial, but this gives you a sense of what you can do. You can chart it on the Cartesian coordinates from increasing the idea that you have a special soul, or increasing emphasis on the idea that we share a common humanity, and you get roughly the following chart. Tribalism at the bottom here, the lower corner. And then if you heighten the idea of a special soul, you rise to the level of having an ethnic religion, to Christianity. I use Christianity as an example. I could have used others, but right, we're familiar more or less with Christianity. So the idea is there are special people who have a special privileged relationship with God, and as the narrative more or less goes, it is only those people, the Christians, which will be able to continue to have that relationship with God on into your afterlife, your immortal afterlife. So very special soul, but only some people have it. If you go the opposite way, de-emphasizing the soul, but going all the way out to common humanity, you would get an ideology, something akin to communism. And then I could explain a couple more. We're running out of time. I want this chart to be more suggestive than to worry about entire accuracy. Universalism would be the idea that everyone has a unique, irreplaceable, special soul, and we all have to take care of each other all of the time. It's a sort of a corporate salvation idea. And then Buddhism. Now, Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity, right? The theologies in the last 1,000 years have been getting very sophisticated. So there are some versions of Christian theology that have migrated towards universalism. There have been some versions of Buddhism that have been migrating towards humanism, right? So this is permeable because the civilizations are in contact with each other and because they're trying to think through these problems, and so they're changing and adapting. So this is artificial, but just suggestive, and that's all I intended. You see humanism over there. Not believing in the existence of an immortal soul, but emphasizing common humanity. And I'm a secular humanist, and so this is of particular relevance to how a philosophical defense of humanism might deal with its neighbors, right? Some lessons for humanists, very quickly. No psychological account of humans sprouting and acting on religious beliefs could decide whether they are true. I've given you some arguments for that. Psychology either assumes their truth or stays agnostic. The scientific spirit should stay agnostic, right? It should not assume the truth or assume that they could not possibly exist. Try to study the phenomenon to which it is confident. No anthropological account of humans practicing religious rituals could decide their value, right? Anthropology either just sort of practically assumes that it has a value and tries to figure out what that is, or again, it just stays agnostic, just stays comparative, if you will, right? Tries to stay neutral. There is no such thing as religion in the wild. There's no way now for us to see any good evidence of what the pure or true or right religion would be for some sort of generic, pure or true human being in its essence. Ain't no such animal. No such animal has ever existed, right? The religions available for study now arose from cultural adaptations within the past few thousand years. No religion is more natural or more basic. For the power of naturalistic accounts of religion lie, I would argue, not in eliminating religion as dumb or irrational, but rather in exposing religions as cultural and as adaptive, as wise. Religions are intelligently designed. Okay? And I think now you're kind of getting the drift of where I'm going with this. The power of naturalistic accounts, to the extent that they try to encourage the naturalistic worldview and try to make sure that religion fits comfortably and entirely within the naturalistic worldview, lies in viewing religion as serving a human purpose that is real. Not necessarily irreplaceable, but at least quite real. Naturalism gets nowhere calling religion dumb or irrational because then naturalism has no way of explaining either its universality or its lasting cultural adaptability. A lot of effort has gone into religion, and there must be a reason why. A few conclusions. Religion has no distinctive psychological basis. There's no religion gene. There's no religion module. There's no, right? Religion, has, and especially theology, has so much now to do with the software loaded onto the hardware that you can't do it quick and easy like that. Religions are narrative constructs that build on older modular adaptations that have evolved to meet human needs. For example, morality, and we could think of a few others. Religions gradually evolve over time as human needs and ideals shift due to other cultural changes. Think of the immense changes forced upon religion and upon theologies just by technology alone, or the telescope. Right? Theologies try to quickly update religions through intellectual adaptations of traditional narratives. Theologies and facts within a few generations. They can't wait for lengthy cultural, much less biological evolution. They're trying to keep up with the pace, the accelerating pace of cultural change in the world. Civilization and empire theologies try to make religion simultaneously more personal and also more uniform. They're really struggling with this. And secular humanists, people trying to give naturalistic accounts of religion, atheists, need to understand this and respect it. Okay? This is very important. Finally, there's nothing in religion that cannot be replaced by a comprehensive worldview. But that's a lecture for another time. But I promised you some provocation so we get some really good question and answer. And I may have succeeded in that. Thank you very much.